helpless.
I slipped and fell in the bathroom while taking a shower. I lay there naked on the cold tile floor for a full 5 hours, unable. All I could hear was the slow drip of the faucet, tick, tick, tick. I remember thinking, if I die here tonight, it'll probably take 2 weeks before anyone notices, when my body starts to rot and smell, and only then will a neighbor find me. My name is Elizabeth, 4 years old. The reason I'm still alive today isn't just luck. It's because, during those 5 hours of despair, I figured something out. I came up with 6 simple ways to save myself, nothing fancy, just practical thinking, and I dragged myself out of that pit of waiting to die. If you're afraid that one day you might die alone at home and no one would know, then listen to me, an old woman who brushed past death. These 6 things might save your life. My husband passed away early, and I raised my daughter on my own, sent her to London, where she now works and has her own family. When I first retired, my life suddenly collapsed. There was no more post office counter to open every morning on time. The house became so quiet I could only hear the occasional crackling of wood in the old fireplace and the low hum of the refrigerator. What I feared most back then were the long winter nights. I looked at my neighbor Emily and old Tom on the corner. They both lived alone too. Emily spent her days complaining to her daughter on the phone, blaming her for not visiting. Every time she hung up, her eyes would be swollen from crying. Old Tom just sat outside the pub all day, staring blankly at passing cars, clutching an empty beer glass in his hand. Neither of them figured out how to live with themselves. They left this world full of resentment and confusion. During those 5 hours on the bathroom floor, staring at the ceiling, I suddenly understood something. They don't cost much, and you don't need to rely on anyone else. First, force yourself to go out into the backyard, even if it's just to sit for 10 minutes. After that fall, I realized I couldn't keep lying on the sofa like a useless person anymore. The less you move, the weaker your bones get, and the easier it is to fall. The very next morning, I forced myself into a thick wool cardigan, pushed open the back door, and walked into my small garden. I didn't go to any community center or social gatherings. I didn't have the energy for that. I just sat on my old wooden bench, the paint already peeling. I only stayed for 10 minutes. I watched the robins on the grass, the neighbor's dog beyond the fence, and the light rain falling onto the green leaves. In just those 10 minutes, something inside me shifted. The air outside was cool against my face. It woke me up. All those living things reminded me, I'm still alive. The world is still big. It's not just that cold. Later, I learned that being in nature and getting sunlight helps your brain produce chemicals that make you feel better. But back then, I didn't know any of that. I just knew that from that day on, I went into the garden every day. 10 minutes became 30. Then I started walking a full loop along the stone path. My knees, but the more I walked, the looser they felt. My shoulders relaxed. My breathing steadied. The girl at the flower shop on the corner suggested I grow some marigolds. I spent £2 on a small pot and placed it on my windowsill. Every morning, I watered it. 1 flower today, 2 tomorrow. It gave me something to look forward to. If you feel heavy and restless right now, listen to me. Tomorrow, put on your boots, step, and stand there for 10 minutes. Look at the sky. Look at the street. Don't think about anything else. When you go back inside, I promise you'll feel a little lighter. Second, keep your mind busy. Learn some simple skills. Once your body starts moving, your mind needs to work too. I used to handle accounts and weigh parcels at the post office every day. My brain was always active. After retirement, it stopped. I became forgetful, couldn't even remember where I left my keys the day before. I thought I might be getting Alzheimer's. Then I realized I needed to give my brain something to do. I didn't try to learn anything complicated. I simply used my tablet to look up how to make pastries I'd never tried before. I learned to bake scones. The next, how to make apple jam. I followed the videos step by step. The scones came out a bit hard, but I spread jam on them and thought they tasted just fine. Every time I learned something new, it felt like I was scraping a bit of rust off my brain. My daughter bought me an old tablet, and I started using it to learn how to identify different birds. There are so many in Britain I couldn't name a single one before. Now I can tell whether the bird in my garden is a blue tit or a greenfinch. My friend Betty always dreamed of going to France, so she started learning 10 French words a day using a free app. Every morning, she sits on her sofa with a cup of coffee, repeating those strange pronunciations, and when she gets them wrong, she laughs out loud. Use your brain, or it will fail you. Age has nothing to do with it. You don't need to spend money on classes. Read an old book about plants, learn an old song on your phone, or even just memorize a few oven temperatures. When your mind has something new in it, you won't lie in bed at night replaying old regrets. Third, stop insulting yourself. Make peace with who you are. When you live alone long enough, your biggest enemy becomes your own mind. Whenever something went wrong, like a leaking pipe or a broken oven, my first reaction used to be useless. You can't even handle something this simple. You're getting old. When I saw other families together while my home stayed empty, maybe I'm just difficult. Maybe that's why I ended up like this. Those words hurt more than anything others could say. I realized I had become my own worst enemy. 3 years ago, I changed the rules. I bought the cheapest notebook from the corner shop every night before bed. I write down one thing I did well that day. What kind of things? My scones didn't burn. Today, I thank the young cashier at the shop. Today, I cleaned the ash by the fireplace. It felt pointless. But my perspective changed. I stopped focusing on what was wrong with me and started noticing what I did right. Whenever that harsh voice in my head says, "You're just a useless old woman," I answer back out loud, "Elizabeth, you raised a child on your own, and you're taking care of yourself just fine. You're doing well. It may sound silly, but it works. If you're alone in your home, and you keep tearing yourself down, how can life feel livable? You have to be your own friend. If today didn't go well, tonight write down one thing you did right, even if it's just, I drank water on time. Give yourself a break. You've been through enough in this life. There's no need to keep fighting yourself in old age. Fourth, don't fear silence. Treat it as a kind of blessing. People fear loneliness, but what they really fear is silence. I used to turn on the radio the moment I walked in, blasting it loud, not because I was listening, but because I wanted noise, something to make the house feel alive. But when the laughter ended and the news stopped, the emptiness came back even stronger. So I forced myself to turn it off. I sat in my old armchair, no phone, no TV. The house was dark and quiet. I lasted 5 minutes. My thoughts racing. I wanted to get up. Call my daughter, anything. But I breathed quietly and asked myself, "Elizabeth, what are you really afraid of?" The truth was, I wasn't afraid of anything. I was just afraid of facing the fact that it was only me. By the 5th day, I sat there listening to the rain drip from the roof. the wind brushing against the windows, and suddenly the house felt peaceful, no one interrupting me, no one nagging. Everything in that room, every table, every chair was mine. It stopped feeling like loneliness. It felt like peace. Emily cries on the phone. Tom drinks away his days. But I sit here in my quiet home, sipping hot tea with my eyes closed. Isn't that a kind of blessing? If silence scares you, try this. Turn everything off and sit still for 5 minutes. Breathe. Listen to your own breath. Once you can sit calmly for those 5 minutes, you'll stop being afraid of being alone. Fifth, live by your own rules, don't just get by. The time I fell in the bathroom happened because I was careless, wearing slippers. Live. The easiest way to fall apart is to start getting by. Skipping breakfast because it's just you. Eating leftover canned food for lunch. 2 biscuits for dinner. Not cleaning. Not making the bed because no one sees. But that kind of life will wear you down. So I set some strict rules for myself. Every morning, I get up and make my bed neatly, like in a hotel. Breakfast must be hot, even if it's just toast with butter. At 4 p.m, I make myself a cup of black tea and sit on the balcony. At 10:30 p.m, these rules are my backbone. They remind you are living your life. You're not just passing time. Your time matters. Treat yourself like a guest worth caring for. My friend Betty irons her coat before every walk. People laugh at her, but she says, I feel good when I look at myself. Life, especially when you're alone. You should live it properly. Pick one small rule. Maybe comb your hair every morning, or always sit at the table to eat. With your days gain shape. Without it, you'll collapse into a heap. 6. Find a small purpose that doesn't depend on others. To live, you need to feel useful. After retirement, the feeling that no one needs me anymore hurts the most. I felt like an old stamp, thrown into a corner. But I didn't want to rely on others. I didn't want to be a burden. So I found small things I could do. There's a charity shop in town. Every Tuesday afternoon, I volunteer for 2 hours, sorting donated clothes and books. I don't care about recognition. I just feel good using my hands to make things neat. I also told the church library I could help repair damaged books whenever they needed it. Watching torn children's books become whole again under my glue and tape made me feel connected to the world again. I even leave some dry grass and food in the corner of my garden. Hedgehogs pass through at night. Watching them eat and slowly wander off makes me feel like I matter. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It just has to mean something. When you start giving warmth outward, you're no longer just a forgotten, lonely old person. You become someone who brings warmth to others. Today, I'm 74. My body isn't as strong as it used to be. My daughter lives in London and only visits every few months. But I don't feel miserable at all. I live with the rhythm of the sun. I sleep. There's no resentment in my heart, no fear either. I've turned living alone into the most peaceful, steady years of my life. I finally understand how to live. You've made it this far in life. You've survived storms. There's no reason to be defeated by a little silence. Listen to me, don't wait, and don't rely on anyone else. Tell me, which of these 6 things will you try tomorrow? Make a decision in your heart or tell me below. If you take even one small step today, tomorrow will be different. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next story.